Hello, I'd like to give a shout out to Julia, Simplicity Revealed channel, and her latest video talking about language lessons of the heart. I feel that this is critical to how we get through the coming years and will determine the outcome of what is to come in the next 18, 20 years. I'm referring, of course, to the vapor canopy. And if you know nothing about this, I suggest you start with Julia's 13 videos giving a summary of the Archaics channel to give you an overview. But it is down to you to sort of look into these things for yourselves. Don't take anything at face value. Don't take anything and just accept it. Ask yourself, how does it feel to you? Because the secret is always in the feeling. That is the true sight. That is the true hearing. How you feel inside about everything. As I've mentioned in recent videos, when your perception of this reality changes, the background scene that plays out still plays out, but your perception, the angle that you see things at, a broader picture of it, will change how you feel about this reality, and it becomes something fantastic, something I feel that you actively wish to take part in. Basically, as I see this, if you can picture yourself sitting in a car with a high window line. Now you're looking out the windows of that car, which is parked inside a garage. And we're trying to describe the outside of the garage, or as Ken Wheeler would put it, you can't think your way out of a thinking box. But you can get glimpses of it. I had a little glimpse of, basically, we're not in a virtual headset, we're in a virtual body set. You could see it as being like in those basic sort of eggshells on the Matrix where we're plugged in to this game. So like any game, to play the game, it is knowing what the object of the game is. And I feel the best explanation for this is by Neville Goddard, which is God became man, so man may become God. I think it's fair to say that we are co-creators, therefore we have the same ability to create. As a creator, we are individualized aspects of something far greater, what Jason Archaics channel would call the oversoul. Look at anything in this reality. Take, for example, learning to be a pilot. I understand that they do a lot of the training in flight simulators, so it looks very real and goes through all the motions as if you were flying a plane. Our experience in these avatars is basically exactly the same. We are in a simulation. If you look at the way every aspect of every day of your life is affected by this reality, and it all seems to be done in a way to stop you finding out who you truly are. But if you can navigate and weave your way through that, you can take that car out of the garage. You are given the keys to the car. As I've described it before, you are not going to give the keys to a Ferrari to a 10-year-old and say, there you go, off you go. Likewise, when we have this phenomenal power to create worlds, and I'm not exaggerating by this, But if we have this ability within us to create, then this is a training ground, this is a simulation to test out our abilities. This is a theme over the last few years about testing, mandatory testing. The man, door, I. The man is at the door, opening up to the activated pineal gland, which you can do through putting into practice learning language of the heart. That is our language. Consider also the difference between humanity, the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the animal kingdom. The one that stands out more than any other is humanity. We have the individual I consciousness, the awareness that we're individual. But it is far more than that. With a spiritual upgrade, there is an evolution that goes on. What we have lost in the past, I am seeing coming back. That ability to communicate with those other three kingdoms. Rock crystals, for example, have an energy. It's almost like a telepathic communication, not the sense of communication that we know as speech, where we talk to each other, but there is a silent telepathic language. Some of you have this ability already to varying degrees, talking to plants, talking to animals. Consider also that saying, if there's been a disagreement and you reach an impasse, say a breakdown of a marriage or something, how often do you hear that saying, have you tried talking to them? That's something that you can put into practice, and the interaction between yourself and nature. As you open up the mind, you expand your consciousness, you are opening yourself up to new things. So on the one hand, you will feel more and you will feel these things physically. But it also opens you up and you start to see the wonders and things that you've been told are not possible. A lot of channels have been talking about free energy and harnessing free energy. But how many have actually speculated on what that free energy is being used for if it is being siphoned off? Quite a long time ago, I talked about sky tracks. Now I'm basing my premise on as above, so below. So whereas you have ley lines and magnetic grids on Earth, consider what is above, that there may well be sky tracks. And that energy is being siphoned off to keep things cloaked, keep things hidden, that are then using that energy to generate a frequency, mimicking the astrology. I feel that most people, or a lot of people, are affected by phases of the moon. You can't sleep, things like that. You have a different feel when you go out in the sun because it is all about the magnetic energies. But consider also the other wandering stars. What effect do they have? And what effect would they have if there is a distortion or an interference pattern using the free energy? And this is another theme in this simulation about using our energy against us, playing us off against each other, using our own power against ourselves. It's all about flipping the script, changing the polarity in this experience between birth and death. So if you can imagine, this is all about, it's expressed in the Bible as bring unto me the children. It doesn't actually mean to be taken literally about bringing young children to anybody. What it is referring to is thinking like a child, having a childlike imagination. Just observe the way children play. Consider also the child's bedroom. I've said this before as well. The baby's mobile that projects stars and things and the moon and the sun that go round on the ceiling. That's basically what we've got. We have a projection. Another thing about this reality is all about reflecting. That's another theme, especially with spirituality. Reflecting upon what we see and how we dress, what we wear, whether we colour our hair, everything. It is all an external projection. We are replicating the same blueprint all the time. Now, I fully go along with Archaic's channel with regard to Giza, but I do have one concern with this, and that is that the casing stones, which I see as the insulation, are missing. It may well be that after the Phoenix event, that as people begin to grow under this vapor canopy and you see the return of giants, which will be the generation that is born under that vapor canopy conditions, who are now 12, maybe 15, 20 foot, putting casing blocks on that Great Pyramid may well be possible. I feel they are essential. They are the insulation for whatever that power source that is going to come up through that Giza pyramid, and then put a beam up for maybe a few seconds and change the sky, as it were, and what we actually see. Correct the interference pattern, as it were. But consider also, we're in this reality where everything is about siphoning off our energy. Wherever the attention goes, the energy flows. This is why it is so important to do the language lessons of the heart. So we realign ourselves, so we are putting out the right energy. It is expressed in terms of civil aviation as, if there is a problem, the oxygen mask comes down, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Because if you have not sorted out the internals, and you're not coming from the heart space, then the energy you are radiating out is not going to be quite as good as it should be. But don't worry, because it is all an ongoing process. It is all about learning. It's the same blueprint as learning to walk. It is about repetition. It is about programming the body from the mind. As Julia has said, we do these exercises. Now, maybe some of you are being observant and seeing what the system is showing. I've noticed recently, I think there's a series that is like the backstory to Game of Thrones, and it's Rise of the House of the Dragon. When we look at the story of Enki, it is said that on his mother's side, his mother was from Draco, a draconian. The serpent theme is very strong in everything. That saying about seeing things eye to eye, that is your twin caduceus, your two serpents. If you see the illustrations, they're facing each other. They're roughly about here, and then you sit up here above them. Everything in this reality is based on human physiology. I've said before on videos about the Great Pyramid of Giza. I think I mentioned this to Karen on Sun and Moon Family United channel. Consider with the Great Pyramid of Giza, you've got those 4 star shafts. I would suggest that they are a sort of a straightened out interpretation of eyesight and hearing. But you notice that on that Great Pyramid, they were blocked off. I feel that is a clue, and it tells us much about us. So what if those casing blocks are not put back on and there is no insulation? Will this thing work? But will that be a problem? I don't feel it will be. I feel that we have the ability to individually generate, I think it's something in the region of 30 trillion volts of magnetic energy, the dielectric, as it were, from within inside us, and consider how phenomenal that power would be. Consider when you have a computer switched on or any device and you have several programs or apps all open and running at the same time, how hot those computers get. The fans start kicking in. They are drawing more power. As more and more individuals in this present experience begin to speak this language lessons of the heart, we also have an effect by what we generate out, the same as the stars. As above, so below. We are putting out a magnetic energy. It begins to change things. I feel that what we will see, you'll have the vapor canopy come back, but our energy, our collective energy, we may actually become the Great Pyramid of Giza in terms of energy, because we have casing blocks. We have these avatars that holds this, right in the middle of the heart is a star, a very tiny star with a very intense heat. That spark right in the middle of, from nothing comes everything in our individual forms. And so therefore, it may not even take the Great Pyramid of Giza. We may form the Great Pyramid of Giza. As this AIX is now having to, it's not just putting out a frequency to control groups of people as herds, it's now got people being unpredictable, and it's now having to use more power, more energy to try and put in a distortion frequency, which increasingly seems to be working less and less on certain individuals amongst humanity. And that thing's going to get very hot. Maybe even this simulated sun is a part of this as well. A lot of this is speculation on my part here and putting together a picture based on looking at one side of the mirror and the other side of the mirror, looking at the micro and the macro and comparing, seeing the same blueprints, the same patterns in things. So watch for the signs, like with the Game of Thrones and anything that's advertised, new films. Notice the colour of the sky in the background. What is it alluding to? It seems pretty clear that a very small group have hijacked what is basically the computer game book with the object of the game in it and have edited it. It's basically the Bible, it's the handbook of the computer game. God becomes man so man can become God. It is a training ground, it is a playnet, it is a playpen on which we are here to practice. And you look at that theme, whether it be learning to feed yourself, to be able to master holding a spoon and put the food in your mouth without getting it all over your face and all the way down the bib and all in your hair like you would do as a baby or as a toddler. But you've made that conscious decision and you want to learn to feed yourself. And in time you master holding a spoon, you master using a knife and fork. Then you go on to walking. You fall over a few times, but you keep going. You self-program yourself and you master walking to the point where it becomes second nature. The same with learning to drive and everything else in this reality. the system does exactly the same thing. Nobody comes in this realm knowing the 12 times table. But through repetition, and this is the same with learning national anthems or learning songs, it is all repetition. Self-programming or system programming, it works in exactly the same way. So it becomes automatic, it becomes second nature. So by adopting the language lessons of the heart, is a wonderful language to learn, because it is far more than what is accepted as a language, as verbal communication. It is an unseen communication, and I can testify that it has worked. I have tested this out repeatedly on very small things, because it's all about taking baby steps. But now it's come to the point to start cranking this up. Let's go for bigger things. This channel is all about, I want this channel to all be about not just speculation and theorizing, but to actually give you results. This is why the channel changed to the Energy Flow Tribe, because part of the manifesting from the desire has been to find those that are part of the same soul tribe, those that are on the same frequency, and that has been achieved. Obviously within the group, not everybody is, and I say group, it's nothing formal about it. There is no membership to this. It's just of your own volition. You turn up, you gather with other people, and it's a beautiful energy. But people are at different stages. You all have different skills. There is a sort of misconception that you have to know all these things. You have to be able to read tarot cards. You have to know. No, you don't. Go for what you feel drawn to, what you are interested in. That is your soul memory of past lives. You'll have an interest in things from things you have participated in before. And again, it is down to gut feeling, to intuition. You can also change the way this game is played. When you are operating in the external world, you have 5 senses to draw on. And to a lesser degree, which it seems to be sort of programmed out of us, to switch off the intuition and switch off the instinct to some degree. But when you internalize those 5 senses, and then you've also got the intuition and the instinct on the inside, you have that 7-5 split. You have greater within than without. This reality is very much backwards. So if I put this in Rudolf Steiner terms, when we're talking about the physical body, the etheric body, the astral body, and the eye organization, it is like Russian dolls in reverse. The etheric body, the astral body, and the eye organization are not actually contained within. They are in a non-physical form, in a non-material world, as it were, that operates within this material world. So they're actually on the outside, not on the inside. We are greater than we are, as it were. Again, I can use a biblical passage here. You will go on to do greater things than I. That can be seen in terms of what, as collectively, when we find that Christ consciousness and activate it within outside ourselves, yes, we can go on to do greater things. We can change this entire simulation reality. But think of it also greater than I, so talking about the individual. But then the aspects of you in the etheric, the astral, and the eye organization are greater if they could be seen in a physical sense. But of course they can't. It is operating in the unseen. Just to give you, I'll end on this beautiful story. This is something that happened to me yesterday. There was a seagull who had a bag with a paper bag in its beak with I suppose, a minced beef pasty or something inside, and it landed maybe 4 foot away and just looking straight at me. And it's like, I know what you want. You want me to. And this bird did not fly away. Normally, seagulls, and we're talking about those big heron gull sized seagulls, they normally fly away. They won't stay round, but because there's food, obviously it is. And I've walked over to it and I've split the bag open, which he was very grateful for, and then a couple more seagulls came down, and that ended up with about 30 birds coming down. I'm developing a beautiful relationship with the birds. Within 5 minutes of me sitting down, I've got a pigeon with me. I know it may only be what is called covered love because they know I've got food and they associate with me with food. Incidentally, while I think of it, it's very important to remain consistent, particularly with birds. It seems that they go very much by sight and colour. So if one day you wear clothing of one particular colour and then the next day you wear something that's a completely different colour, I've noticed that initially they react very differently. Whereas a dog will use smell and doesn't seem to matter what you wear, they will recognise you by sense. They work on a very different frequency, but birds seem to be more to do with sight. So when you're having interaction with nature, I feel it is important to try and be consistent in what is to a bird will be seen as like your feathers, your covering. And then they seem to recognise you, so I wear this sort of cream colour hoodie, and they've obviously associated me with that sort of image and the fact that I've got food for them, and I think that's why they appear. But it's a beautiful relationship. It's amazing how cold their feet are when they land on your arm and how warm their feathers are, the total contrast in them. But that's a little happy side note to the main part of this. I don't actually know what is going to happen, but in the mind's eye, I have seen this, and I am concerned that without those casing stones on the Great Pyramid of Giza, it won't function properly. But the function is within us. It is built into us. And it may be our energy that actually makes this device so hot that it can no longer magnetically stick. It cannot draw enough power to hold itself up on the sky tracks, and it comes down. And no more AIX. Anyway, whatever happens, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fantastic show, and it is a perfect time to be here. It is a perfect time to actively take part in what is to come and do something with this simulation and create something far better. So I'm going to say love to you all, and ta-ta for now.